Have you ever felt like your happiness depends on someone else? A delayed message makes you anxious. A missing compliment makes you question your worth. A cold glance ruins your entire day. But why? Why do you allow your emotions to be dictated by forces beyond your control? The truth is, you are trapped in a prison, but you are also holding the key. Most people live their lives searching for approval, longing for validation, and fearing rejection. They believe they need others to feel whole. But here's the reality. You don't need anyone to complete you. You are already whole. This video will take you on a journey toward absolute emotional independence. You will learn the Stoic principles that empower you to stand strong, unshaken by external forces. By the end, you won't just understand Stoicism, you will embody it. No more waiting for someone to make you feel valuable. No more allowing others to control your emotions. From this moment on, you take full ownership of your mind, your peace, and your happiness. Are you ready to reclaim your power? Let's begin. 1. Be the hero of your own life. There will be moments in life when you feel stuck, waiting for something or someone to change your circumstances. You wait for the right opportunity, the right person to validate your worth, or the perfect moment to begin. But here's the brutal truth. No one is coming. The only person who can save you is yourself. You are the hero you have been waiting for. Imagine yourself stranded in the middle of the ocean. The waves crash against you, the current drags you under, and you scan the horizon for a boat, a hand, anything to pull you to safety. But nothing appears. In that moment, you have two choices: surrender and let yourself sink, or start swimming. The greatest individuals in history, philosophers, warriors, leaders, never waited for favorable conditions. They acted, took responsibility, and made something out of whatever circumstances they were given. Epictetus once said in Discourses, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." This is your moment to choose. Consider the story of Jim Abbott, a man born without a right hand. Imagine being a child, loving baseball, yet hearing from everyone that you could never play professionally because of your missing hand. He could have accepted that limitation. He could have given up. But instead, he trained harder than anyone else, developed his own pitching technique, and refused to let excuses dictate his fate. The result? He made it to Major League Baseball, played for the New York Yankees, and even threw a no-hitter, a feat most pitchers never achieve, even with two hands. Jim Abbott didn't wait for someone to make life easier for him. He took control of his own destiny and became a legend. Many people remain trapped because they believe their problems are caused by external forces, other people, society, bad luck. They blame circumstances and wait for them to change. But those who embrace the Stoic mindset understand that everything begins with them. The moment you take responsibility for your own path is the moment you reclaim your power. The difference between those who remain stuck and those who succeed is not luck or privilege. It is the willingness to act despite uncertainty. Heroes are not those who are never afraid. They are the ones who act despite their fear. So how do you start? You begin by rejecting the lie that you need more time, that you need someone's approval, that you need everything to be perfect. You take one step, even a small one, toward what you want. You stop waiting. You stop blaming. You start moving. Take a moment to write down one area of your life where you have been waiting for someone else to take action for you. Now, decide what action you will take today, no matter how small, to reclaim control over it. Your life is yours to create. No one will hand it to you. No one will fight your battles for you. You are the author of your own story, the architect of your destiny. Be the hero of your own life, because no one else will. 2. Master your emotions. Don't let them control you. One of the greatest illusions in life is the belief that happiness, confidence, and success come from external sources, other people, circumstances, or luck. But in reality, your emotional state determines everything. If you do not control your emotions, you will always be at the mercy of others. Their words, actions, and opinions will dictate your mood. A delayed text, a cold remark, or a rejection will send you into anger or sadness. As long as you let emotions control you, you will always need someone or something to regulate them for you. But once you master your emotions, you become unshakable. You no longer need approval, validation, or ideal conditions to feel at peace. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Most people live like puppets, allowing their emotions to dictate their reactions. They get angry because someone insulted them. They feel discouraged because they were rejected. But the moment you let external forces decide how you feel, you surrender control. You become a prisoner to every situation that arises. A powerful example of emotional mastery is Nelson Mandela, the South African leader who spent 27 years in prison for opposing apartheid. He had every reason to be consumed by anger and resentment. But instead, he chose control. When he was finally released, he did not seek revenge. He sought peace. His ability to control his emotions allowed him to unite a divided nation and become its first black president. His emotions did not rule him, he ruled them. So how do you train yourself to master your emotions? First, learn to pause before reacting. When something angers you, take a deep breath and ask, will this matter in a week, in a year? Most of the time it won't. Second, reframe your perspective. Instead of seeing an insult as an attack, see it as a test of your strength. Instead of seeing failure as defeat, see it as a lesson. Lastly, develop a daily practice of self-awareness, whether through journaling, meditation, or simply reflecting on how you react to situations. If you do not master your emotions will master you. You will be forever controlled by circumstances, always reacting instead of choosing your response. But once you take charge of your mind, you take charge of your life. And when you no longer need anyone to regulate your emotions for you, that is when you become truly free. 3. Stop seeking sympathy. Imagine a man lost in the desert, exhausted, thirsty, and desperate. Instead of walking towards the distant oasis, he falls to his knees, crying for help, hoping someone will come to rescue him, but no one does. The sun keeps burning, the sand keeps shifting, and he remains exactly where he is, stuck. This is what happens when you seek sympathy instead of strength. Complaining about your struggles, waiting for others to acknowledge your pain, does nothing to move you forward. If anything, it keeps you exactly where you are. The Stoics understood that life is harsh, unfair, and unpredictable, but instead of seeking pity, they embraced hardship as a test of character. Marcus Aurelius in Meditations wrote, "You shouldn't give circumstances the power to rouse anger, for they don't care at all. Life does not stop to acknowledge your suffering. The universe does not bend to your complaints. The sooner you accept this, the sooner you can start taking action." Seeking sympathy might feel good in the moment, but it gives away your power. It makes you dependent on others for emotional validation instead of becoming the source of your own resilience. There is a crucial difference between venting and complaining. Venting is releasing frustration with the goal of finding a solution. Complaining is dwelling on a problem while expecting others to share your burden. The former leads to growth, the latter leads to stagnation. If you constantly share your problems without working to fix them, you train yourself to remain helpless. Instead of seeking external comfort, cultivate internal strength. If life knocks you down, stand up, not because someone else is watching, but because you refuse to stay down. A powerful exercise to break free from the habit of seeking sympathy is the 24-hour challenge. For the next 24 hours, do not complain about anything to anyone. No complaints about work, relationships, or the weather. Every time you feel the urge to seek sympathy, pause and ask yourself, is this helping me become stronger, or am I looking for validation? If the problem is real, take action. If it's minor, let it go. You will quickly realize how much unnecessary negativity you release daily. More importantly, you will feel a shift. The moment you stop looking for sympathy, you start building resilience. 4. Learn to love solitude instead of fearing it. Most people fear being alone. They fill every empty moment with distractions, scrolling through their phones, turning on the TV, seeking company, anything to avoid facing themselves. But what if I told you that solitude is not something to escape from? It is something to embrace. True strength comes from being able to stand alone, not needing external validation, and finding peace within yourself. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that solitude was not loneliness, it was power. It was in solitude that Marcus Aurelius wrote Meditations, reflecting on life, discipline, and the impermanence of all things. He ruled an empire, but in his mind he was always alone, unaffected by the opinions of others, reliant only on his own inner compass. Solitude allows you to do the same. When you learn to love being alone, you realize you don't need constant social interaction to feel complete. You stop seeking company just to avoid discomfort. You develop a self-sufficiency that makes you unshakable. Consider the story of Buddhist monk Matthieu Ricard, once a highly respected scientist who left behind a promising career to seek deeper meaning in solitude. For years he lived in the Himalayas, meditating, studying, and embracing a life of deep self-awareness. He didn't fear isolation. He thrived in it. Today, he is considered the happiest man in the world, not because he surrounds himself with people, but because he has mastered the art of being alone without feeling lonely. His happiness does not depend on external validation, but on an inner state of peace. To develop this same resilience, you must first face solitude head-on. Start with a challenge. Spend an entire day alone. No social media, no texting, no distractions, just you and your own thoughts. Take a walk, read, reflect, write, or simply sit in silence. At first, it may feel uncomfortable. Your mind will crave distractions, but push through. Pay attention to what arises when all external noise is stripped away. What do you think about? What emotions surface? The more you do this, the more you will understand yourself. Most people never truly know themselves because they never spend time alone. But solitude is where you find clarity, where you build resilience, where you stop needing others to complete you. When you learn to love solitude, you free yourself from the fear of being alone. And when you no longer fear solitude, you realize you have always been enough. 5. Happiness comes from within. Imagine two people standing in the same rainstorm. One curses the sky, feeling like the universe is against them. The other smiles, enjoying the cool droplets on their skin. The difference? Their perception. Happiness is not found in what happens to you. It is found in how you choose to interpret and respond to life. Most people spend their entire lives chasing happiness through money, relationships, success, only to realize that the moment they achieve what they wanted, they still feel empty. That's because happiness has never been something external. It has always been something you create within. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in Meditations, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." This simple truth is one of the most profound lessons of Stoicism. Your emotions, your sense of fulfillment, and your inner peace are shaped by how you think, not by what you own or what others do for you. The more you attach your happiness to external factors, people's approval, achievements, possessions, the more fragile it becomes. If your joy depends on someone else's validation, what happens when they withdraw it? If your peace comes from success, what happens when you fail? But when you cultivate happiness from within, nothing and no one can take it away from you. I'll be happy when I have more money. Will you? Or will you just find new things to want? True happiness doesn't come from having more, but from appreciating what you already have. I'll be happy when I find the right person. And if that person leaves, does that mean your happiness leaves too? Depending on others for happiness is like building a house on unstable ground. It's bound to collapse. I'll be happy when my problems disappear. There will always be problems. The key is learning to be happy despite them, not waiting for a perfect life that doesn't exist. So how do you cultivate happiness from within? Gratitude. It is impossible to feel miserable while appreciating what you have. Start a simple habit. Write down 3 things you are grateful for every day. It can be as small as the warmth of the sun on your face, a good conversation, or the ability to breathe. Over time, you will train your mind to focus on abundance rather than lack. Stop chasing happiness as if it's something outside of you. It isn't. It has always been within you, waiting to be recognized. The sooner you realize this, the sooner you become free. No person, no achievement, no circumstance is responsible for your happiness. Only you are. 6. Let go of what holds you back. Imagine trying to run a marathon while wearing a full diving suit, heavy, restrictive, slowing you down with every step. No matter how much effort you put in, the weight drags you back, exhausting you before you even reach halfway. This is exactly what happens when you hold on to things that no longer serve you, past regrets, toxic relationships, unnecessary fears, or self-imposed limitations. If you want to move forward, you must let go. The Stoics understood this well. They believed that much of human suffering comes from attachment to outcomes, to people's opinions, to things we cannot control. Epictetus once said, "Happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control, and some things are not." The moment you realize this truth, your life changes. You stop wasting energy on things that drain you. You stop trying to control the uncontrollable. You stop carrying unnecessary burdens. Think about your own life. What are you still holding on to? Maybe it's resentment towards someone who wronged you. Maybe it's the fear of failure that keeps you stuck. Maybe it's guilt over something you cannot change. These things act like invisible chains, keeping you from reaching your full potential. But here's the hard truth. You are the one keeping the chains locked. The only way to break free is to choose to let go. Consider the story of a professional athlete who was once a rising star, but suffered a devastating injury. For years, he clung to his old identity, refusing to accept that he could no longer compete at the same level. His frustration consumed him. But one day, he made a choice. He let go of what was no longer possible and embraced what was. He became a coach, helping others reach their potential. His success wasn't in reclaiming the past, but in freeing himself from it. Letting go allowed him to create a new path instead of being trapped by an old one. To practice this in your own life, try the control versus no control exercise. Grab a piece of paper and make 2 columns. On one side, list everything within your control, your actions, your mindset, your responses. On the other, write what is outside your control, other people's opinions, the past, unexpected events. Look at the second list. These are the things you need to let go of. Every time you find yourself worrying about something outside your control, remind yourself, this is not mine to carry. Letting go is not losing. It is liberation. It is taking off that heavy diving suit and finally running free. You cannot move forward while holding on to what holds you back. The choice is yours. Will you keep carrying the weight, or will you finally let it go? 7. Don't let possessions and circumstances control you. Most people live as if their happiness depends on external things: money, success, a bigger house, a better car. They chase material possessions, believing that once they acquire enough, they will finally feel fulfilled. But this is a lie. The moment you allow material things to dictate your emotions, you become a slave to them. You will always need more, always fear losing what you have, and always feel unsatisfied. True freedom comes when you realize that your happiness is not for sale. It is built from within. The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca, a Roman philosopher and one of the wealthiest men of his time, knew firsthand the dangers of attachment to material wealth. Despite his immense fortune, he practiced voluntary poverty, choosing to live for periods with only the bare essentials. He did this to remind himself that true security does not come from riches, but from resilience. In letters to Lucilius, he wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." This is the key. If your happiness depends on what you own, you will always feel poor. But if you detach from material desires, you will always feel rich. A powerful real-world example of this is Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist. He was stripped of everything: his possessions, his family, even his freedom. Yet despite facing unimaginable suffering in a concentration camp, he discovered something profound. Even when everything is taken from you, your mindset remains your own. He realized that those who survived the camps were not necessarily the strongest, but those who had a purpose beyond their circumstances. His experience led him to write Man's Search for Meaning, where he stated, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." So how do you break free from the illusion that possessions and circumstances determine your happiness? Start with a simple challenge. For the next week, do not buy anything you do not truly need. No unnecessary shopping, no impulsive purchases. Observe how often you feel the urge to acquire something just for temporary pleasure. When you resist, you will realize something powerful. You already have enough. You are not defined by what you own. You are not limited by where you are. Your strength lies in your ability to rise above your circumstances and refuse to let material things dictate your peace. When you no longer need wealth, status, or perfect conditions to feel whole, you become truly free, because nothing can take your happiness away from you. 8. Redefine the meaning of your life. What are you living for? Have you ever stopped to ask yourself this question? Most people drift through life without a clear purpose, following routines, chasing goals set by society, and hoping that one day everything will suddenly feel meaningful. But meaning is not something you find. It is something you create. The moment you redefine your purpose is the moment your life truly begins. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers and emperors of Rome, understood this deeply. He wrote in Meditations, "Perform every act in life as though it were your last." This is not a call to recklessness, but a reminder that life is fleeting. Every action, no matter how small, can be infused with meaning if you choose to see it that way. If today were your last day, would you spend it complaining? Would you waste time on meaningless distractions? Or would you focus on what truly matters? Living with purpose means making every moment count. Consider the story of John Francis, an American environmental activist. One day, after witnessing an oil spill, he made a radical decision. He stopped using motorized vehicles and walked everywhere. But that wasn't all. He also took a vow of silence that lasted 17 years. In that silence, he discovered something profound. When you stop following the noise of the world, you hear your own inner voice more clearly. Through his journey, he redefined what life meant to him, dedicating himself to teaching and environmental activism. His life wasn't dictated by what others expected of him. He chose his own meaning and lived by it. So how do you redefine your own life's meaning? Try this exercise. Take a piece of paper and write down 3 things that truly give your life meaning. These should not be superficial goals like making money or gaining recognition, but deep, fulfilling reasons that make life worth living. Maybe it's helping others. Maybe it's creating something meaningful. Maybe it's seeking wisdom. Now, for each one, write one action you will take this week to live according to that purpose. It can be something small, but the key is to act. Meaning is not given. It is built, one action at a time. If you don't define your own purpose, the world will define it for you. Stop waiting for life to become meaningful on its own. Choose your path, choose your mission, and live as if every moment matters, because it does. 9. Set boundaries. Learn to say no. How many times have you said yes to something you didn't want to do, just to avoid disappointing someone? You sacrifice your time, energy, and well-being, convincing yourself that it's the right thing to do. But deep down, you know the truth. You are not helping them. You are betraying yourself. Every time you say yes out of guilt or obligation, you hand over control of your life to others. If you do not set boundaries, people will set them for you. And when that happens, you will no longer be living for yourself, you will be living for everyone else. Stoicism teaches us that self-respect begins with self-discipline, and part of that discipline is knowing your limits. Seneca once said, "Associate only with those who improve you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve." The process is mutual, for men learn while they teach. True relationships are based on respect, not obligation. If someone truly values you, they will respect your boundaries. If they don't, then they were never worth your time to begin with. Consider the story of Lisa, a kind-hearted woman who always helped others. Whenever her friends or co-workers needed something, she was the first to step in, covering shifts, lending money, offering emotional support. But over time, she realized something painful. She was being used. People only came to her when they needed something. They never gave back. She was exhausted, drained, and resentful. One day, she made a decision. She started saying no. At first, people were shocked. Some got angry. But the true friends remained. She realized that setting boundaries didn't make her selfish. It made her free. If you want to take back control of your life, start practicing this today. The power of no. The next time someone asks you for something you don't want to do, pause. Instead of automatically agreeing, ask yourself, am I saying yes because I want to or because I feel pressured? If it's the latter, respond with a polite but firm, I appreciate that you asked, but I can't. No excuses, no apologies, just a clear, confident boundary. Saying no is not rejection, it is self-respect. It is a declaration that your time and energy are valuable. The people who matter will accept it. The ones who don't, let them go. Because the moment you stop living for everyone else is the moment you start living for yourself. 10. Overcomett, the fear of rejection. Rejection is one of the deepest fears most people carry. The fear of hearing no stops us from asking for what we want, pursuing opportunities, or expressing our true selves. We avoid risks, not because we lack ability, but because we fear the sting of being denied. But here's the truth. Rejection is not a reflection of your worth. It is a test of your resilience. Those who succeed in life are not those who never face rejection. They are the ones who refuse to let it stop them. The Stoics understood that the opinions of others hold no real power over us. Marcus Aurelius in Meditations reminds us, choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been. Rejection only has meaning if you assign meaning to it. If someone tells you no, it does not change who you are. It does not make you less worthy, less capable, or less valuable. The only thing it does is present a choice. Will you let it define you, or will you move forward anyway? Think about Walt Disney, one of the most successful creators in history. Early in his career, he was fired from a newspaper for lacking creativity. His first animation studio failed. He pitched his ideas to dozens of investors, and most of them rejected him. But he kept going. He understood that rejection was not the end. It was part of the path to success. If he had let fear stop him, the world would never have known Mickey Mouse, Disneyland, or the empire he built. If you want to overcome the fear of rejection, you must face it directly. Try this challenge. Go to a store and ask for a discount without any reason. Most likely the cashier will say no. And what happens? Nothing. The world doesn't end. You are still the same person. This simple exercise rewires your brain to see rejection as neutral, not as something to fear. The more you get rejected, the stronger you become. Rejection is never about you. It is about compatibility, timing, and circumstances. If you internalize every rejection, you will stay trapped in fear. But if you train yourself to embrace it, you will realize that it has no real power over you. The only real failure is never trying. The moment you stop fearing rejection is the moment you become unstoppable. Because once you realize that no does not hurt you, you will never need anyone's approval again. 11th, strengthen your inner power through hardship. Difficult times break some people, but they forge others into something unshakable. Life will test you through failure, loss, betrayal, and setbacks. You cannot escape hardship, but you can decide how it shapes you. Will you let it weaken you, or will you use it to build unbreakable inner strength? The Stoics believed that adversity is not an obstacle, it is an opportunity. Seneca once wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. Just as lifting heavy weights builds physical strength, enduring hardship builds mental resilience. If you avoid difficulty, you remain weak. If you embrace it, you become stronger than you ever imagined. Every hardship is a chance to train. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow." Consider the story of Theodore Roosevelt, one of the most resilient leaders in history. As a child, he was sickly and weak, suffering from severe asthma. Doctors told him he would never be strong, that his body would always limit him. But instead of accepting his fate, he chose to fight it. He trained his body relentlessly, forcing himself to overcome his limitations. Later in life, he faced devastating loss. On the same day, his mother and wife both died. Instead of breaking, he disappeared into the wilderness, rebuilding himself mentally and physically. He refused to let hardship define him. He used it to become stronger. So how do you train yourself to handle difficulty? Practice negative visualization. Each day, take a moment to imagine losing something important: your job, your health, your loved ones. Not because you want these things to happen, but because preparing for the worst makes you stronger. If these things ever come to pass, you won't be caught off guard. You will be ready. You will have already faced them in your mind. Most people crumble under adversity because they expect life to be easy. But you are not like most people. You understand that pain is a teacher, that struggle is a gift. Hardship does not destroy you. It reveals you. And the more you embrace it, the stronger you become. The world does not get easier. You get tougher. True power comes from knowing that no matter what happens, you will endure. No setback, no loss, no difficulty can break you, because you have already decided that you will not be broken. Hard times will come, but when they do, you will not fear them. You will welcome them, knowing they are shaping you into the strongest version of yourself. 12th, build confidence from within. This is the last piece of the puzzle. Everything you've learned so far, emotional control, detachment from external validation, resilience through hardship, leads to this moment. Because in the end, none of it matters if you don't believe in yourself. Confidence is not something given to you by others. It is something you build, one decision at a time, until it becomes unshakable. Picture this. You are standing in front of a locked door. Behind it lies the life you've always wanted: freedom, success, purpose. You knock, waiting for someone to open it, but no one comes. You knock again, hoping that recognition, approval, or the perfect moment will arrive. But the truth is, the door was never locked. You just never tried to open it yourself. That is what lack of confidence does. It makes you wait for permission that was never needed in the first place. Marcus Aurelius understood this well. In Meditations, he wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinions than our own." Think about that. You have been with yourself every second of your life. You know your struggles, your strengths, your journey better than anyone else. Yet, you allow the fleeting opinions of others to dictate your self-worth. Why? Because confidence built on external approval is fragile. It disappears the moment people's opinions change. But confidence built from within, that is untouchable. Look at Michael Jordan, one of the greatest athletes in history. He was cut from his high school basketball team, a moment that would have shattered most people's self-belief. But instead of letting one rejection define him, he made a decision. I will prove to myself that I am great. And he did. His confidence didn't come from being praised. It came from action, from relentless work, from choosing to believe in himself before anyone else did. Now it's your turn. For the next 7 days, do this. Each night, write down 3 things you are proud of yourself for. It can be anything: overcoming a small fear, keeping a promise to yourself, making progress toward a goal. When you do this consistently, you will notice something remarkable. Confidence is not an emotion, it is proof. Proof that you are capable, proof that you are growing, proof that you are far stronger than you ever gave yourself credit for. You've reached the final step. Now, stop waiting. Stop seeking permission. Push open the door. Walk through it. You don't need anyone to tell you that you are enough, because deep down, you already know. This is it. The moment everything changes. You've just uncovered the most powerful truth. You don't need anyone else to complete you, validate you, or save you. You have always had everything you need within you. Now the only thing left is for you to believe it. Most people go their entire lives waiting for permission, waiting for the right moment, waiting for someone to tell them they are good enough. But you are different. You have seen the truth. No more waiting. No more seeking approval. No more being controlled by things outside of you. The moment you decide to take ownership of your life, everything shifts. So now I ask you, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you let it fade, go back to old habits, and keep living the way you always have? Or will you take action, right now, today, to start walking the path of true independence? If you've made it this far, it means you are ready. Drop a comment below. I am unbreakable. Let the world know that from this moment forward, you stand on your own, free, strong, unstoppable. Your life belongs to you. Now go claim it.